Good afternoon, everyone. James Leonard here from Google for Education.
We've got Will from Neverware.
And we are here on EduGeek Live to talk all things Neverware deployment, some of the technical best practices, and also to field everyone's questions. So it's going to be pretty interactive, hopefully. We'll get everyone's questions answered, and I think we'll dive right in. So on that point, I want to go ahead and share my screen here and just get everyone onto the shared questions document. So if you could head over to this URL, make it a little bit bigger, goo.gl, and that's 9, it's case sensitive, S, V, capital A, X, C. We'll just go ahead and make sure you can get to that point. This is a live questions document that we'll be using for the rest of the broadcast. So if you do hop over there, you'll see, go back to that screen in just a second, you'll see name, any questions, any responses that you have, and also some resources that we'll provide. So with that, I think we're going to get started, yeah? So again, James and Will here, excited to share more about all things Neverware. Here's our agenda. We're going to start out with first the 3 trends, at least from a Google perspective, that we're seeing in the market right now. And then I'll pass it over to Will, who will do an overview of the Neverware solution, a little bit about who they are, what the company is, where they come from, best practices for Neverware deployment. And then as I said, we're going to dedicate a lot of time to answering your questions and talking about next steps and ways to deploy Neverware at your school. So to start it off, what are some general trends that I'm seeing in the market currently? I'm going to sum this up in kind of the 3 top things that I'm hearing from school leaders and IT managers as well. I think the first is an acknowledgement that the cloud is here. It's not a question of should I move to the cloud, but more how do I do it and how do I leverage the resources in the cloud to best more easily manage users, devices across an organization, but also enable students to collaborate with one another and access resources anytime, anywhere. And Neverware fits quite closely with a cloud-first mindset. Many trusts, many schools that we work with who start looking at the clouds, start assessing their old kit and saying, how can I breathe some extra life into these old devices and provide additional access to web-based platforms? Of course, the second trend that I think everyone can agree on is indeed a trend, especially right now with GDPR coming into force next month. This month, it's May already, is that it's here, but it also offers an opportunity. I think for schools and in particular the IT community, it offers a bit of an inflection point to take a look at data hygiene across an organization and security practice across an organization and say, what are we doing that we should potentially not do anymore? Maybe it's as simple as flash drives. Maybe it's a more dedicated move towards GDPR compliant services like Google Drive and G Suite. Or maybe it's looking at the end user devices and saying, perhaps we can encrypt these to better be in line with some of the security provisions in GDPR. And last but not least, we know that technology needs to change. And indeed, it is evolving at some schools. But oftentimes, the supply of new devices does not meet the demand of the teachers and administrators and students who want additional access, right? Usually demand is greater than school budgets allow for. So what excites the Google for Education team, and we work quite closely with Neverware, I know it excites the Neverware team as well, is that in the UK in particular, Neverware is a very practical solution to help evolve and move schools to the cloud without requiring a massive capital investment in new kit, in new stuff. Use the stuff you already have, flip it, give it a new life, and get on and get moving and start working in a different way, perhaps. So those are some of the 3 trends that we see in the market. I'm wondering if they're hitting a chord with those in the audience. But enough about trends. Let's talk about the technology. I'm going to pass it over to Will, who will be diving into an overview of Neverware. Will, take it away.
Hello. So yeah, we'll just go off with a kind of little overview about Neverware, who we are, and why we now have a British accent as well as an American one, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail about the kind of deployment options that you guys have and how you actually get up and running with it. And then obviously, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions at the end, so feel free to fill out that document. Already seen a few good ones come in, so yeah, we'll discuss those at the end. So about Neverware. So we're a team of about 25 people now. Most of those are actually in the development team. We've got about 15 people in the QA and development team based in New York. Yeah, there's a lot of work that we do on the device drivers and all that type of stuff. So a lot of work. And we've got some great guys as well in support based out of New York, as well as the operations team. The company was originally founded actually in 2011 with a product called CloudReady, which was around kind of smoothing out the kind of virtualization process that schools were trying to use to keep their older kit going. Then they kind of realized in 2015, Chromebooks are here and they're doing really well. And they're a great solution for schools in terms of they can get some really cheap kit that works well and is secure and safe and easy to use. So how do we bring that kind of experience to more people? So they launched the product CloudReady in 2015. And then in October 2015, they launched the Home Edition. So that's free for people to download and kind of mess around with and kind of get an understanding of using the product at home on their devices, be that an Apple Mac, an old PC, or an old netbook. So skipping on a little bit further, obviously the two big ones on here is the Series B funding from Google. In October 27, Google invested into Neverware, which was a really big validation for Neverware of all the work that they've done in terms of getting people onto the kind of Google Chrome environment and pushing people to the cloud. So that's really good. And yeah, that relationship is blossoming now. So it's great. And then in February 2018, the Flint team joins Neverware. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of Flint, but I'm previously the founder of or co-founder of Flint Innovations, where we create a very similar product, working to bring Chromium to as much devices as possible, basically. One of the more common ones that people saw was the Raspberry Pi that we made it work for, which was great, but it's an underpowered machine for full desktop browsing, so it's a bit difficult to use if you want to set that up as a workstation. And yeah, we've joined. We met at BET conference and kind of hit it off and decided that it makes sense for us to kind of join up and have some feet on the ground in Europe. So what is CloudReady? So CloudReady is the product name. Neverware is the company name, and CloudReady is the product name. CloudReady, the aim with CloudReady is basically to replicate the Chromebook experience that people know and love on their Chrome devices onto as many devices as possible, predominantly PCs and Macs. So it provides the same Chrome OS user experience that students love. It's got the same UI, it's the same operating system in terms of the user experience. It's got a very similar, virtually identical Chrome OS security model. There's a few bits that we can go into in the questions later on that are slightly different, but it's an extremely secure operating system compared to especially some outdated operating systems that are going out of support soon. And a very important part of this as well is easy management via the Chrome device management software. So you can manage your Neverware devices or your CloudReady devices alongside your Chromebooks, all in the same Google Admin Console. You don't have to have multiple management systems. You don't have to buy an extra management software to manage all your devices under one roof. You can manage your PCs, your Chromebooks, and your Macs all under one roof once you converted your PCs and Macs to CloudReady alongside using your Chromebooks. So we see CloudReady as a really good way for schools that are dipping their kind of toe into the world of Chrome or the world of cloud. They've got maybe a server on site, but they're interested in moving some of their data to the cloud. Things like GDPR are pushing people that way, just because of the ease, also the cost savings. So it's a really good way for a school to maybe swap over one ICT suite and go, okay, let's give it a quick trial. Let's see how it works for a few months, see if the kids like it, see if the teachers like using it, and if it drives more engagement with those devices. And we've seen a lot of that. And then for schools that have already gone Chrome, they've already bought maybe 100 Chromebooks, 200 Chromebooks, and they've got 400 or 500 students. They've probably got some old kit that they're not using anymore because the Chromebooks are being booked out all the time. So it's a great opportunity for that school to get really close to a one-to-one initiative by kind of converting that old kit into a Chrome-style device as well. So you can get really close to that one-to-one. Pricing. So there's 3 levels of pricing. We've got a site license, which is for larger sites. It's a really good option for multi-academy trusts, particularly in terms of, we say it's around 1,800 students for the site as a minimum, but 70 pence per student, and then that's for unlimited devices. So if you've got the scale, that can be an extremely economical model for your school or multi-academy trust. We have annual licensing, which is £10 per device on an annual basis. And then we have perpetual licensing, which is, well, it doesn't run out, it's one time only, but it does include 3 years of support. So it's really easy to get up and running and give it a go. You can try it free at try.neverware.com. You can deploy it either via a USB stick or via mass deployment tools. We'll go into a little bit about that later. And then you can also maintain them once you're up and running in the same place that you do with your Chromebooks, the Google Admin Console. So we'll go a little bit more into a deep dive into deployment and how you guys get up and running. So I just wanted to highlight something we have here as well. We have the Home Edition. So if you've got some old kits at home, you've got an old PC, an old Mac or something at home, and you just want to see if you can bring that device back to life. I've got quite a few devices at home that have replaced the iPads in the house now because they're just so much more usable once they're up and running with CloudReady. I'm a bit of a Lenovo ThinkPad, or an IBM ThinkPad fanboy from back in the day. And yeah, we've got 2 of those at home, just running CloudReady, and they're fantastic just to have around for people that just want to pick up and do some work or do some easy web browsing. There's some really cool stuff coming in the Home Edition around Linux applications and Docker support. So if you're a developer, it's really cool. It's a very exciting time. So give that a go, and then yeah, tell your friends about it. And that's completely free, the Home Edition, but it can't be managed in the Chrome Management Console. And then we have the Education Edition, which is for schools. That's the one that we discussed the pricing for previously, but it's fully manageable with the Chrome Management tool. So minimum requirements, we kind of say around 10 years old is the minimum requirement. It can be a little bit above and below that. Well, it can be a lot below that. We support stuff up to very new. The key requirement that we do kind of state to people is 2 GB of RAM is kind of our real hard requirement. It does work on devices with less than 2 GB of RAM, but we really recommend, and we're only going to certify devices with 2 GB of more of RAM. I found devices with 4 GB plus, it works amazingly. You can go crazy with the amount of tabs you want to open. And we also support both 32-bit and 64-bit, but I do recommend, if you can, to use the 64-bit of the operating system. It's got much better support for drivers and Wi-Fi drivers and touchpads and all that stuff, all that nice stuff, which makes it fun to use. And then you can see the devices there. That's quite an old picture now. We've got quite a few different devices on there. There's a MacBook, an old netbook, a Dell desktop. I think that is no, it's a HP compact desktop, and a Lenovo in the middle. So yeah, it works on a really wide range of devices, and there's some really cool new stuff that's getting certified around kind of like touch. Well, I haven't got any certified touchscreen devices, but devices with touchscreens work well and things like that. So there's some really exciting stuff that's happening around newer bits of kit as well as the old stuff. So certified models, we have around 250 plus certified models ranging across all the major manufacturers. Got Dell, HP, Apple, Lenovo, Toshiba, and many, many more. The key thing here is if you're listening to this today and you notice your certified model isn't on that list and you're keen to get up and running, let us know. Reach out to us, and we can. If we see a lot of demand for a device, we'll rush. Well, not rush. We'll do it in the right time, but we'll try our best to get that up and running as a certified model if we see the demand for it. In almost every release, there's new devices that are certified. In the latest release, there was a couple of Dells, very new Dells actually, and a couple of Asus devices, and also some cool improvements for other devices such as the Asus Transformers, which I know there's quite a few of them around. It's not a certified device, but it's becoming quite stable now. So if you guys want to kind of get up and running, one of the easiest things to do is head over to try.neverware.com and sign up. And once you've done that, it'll prompt you to either, well, you'll get access to my.neverware.com. And in there, you can download the CloudReady USB Maker, which is actually it's based on the Rufus tool. So it's a very stable and mature USB burning solution, but it's got a very nice and easy to use user experience with minimal clicks, so that you can get from having no USB or a blank USB to all the way up to having a nice burnt one ready to go in as minimal clicks as possible. Or if you've got your own favorite USB burner, you can just download the relevant zip file for a 64-bit or a 32-bit version of the OS, and then use whatever you would like if you're confident doing that. And then if you've got the USB Maker, you can see on the right, there's just an example of one of the images. There's just a few more next buttons, and then you'll be up and away. And if you've got the zip, we kind of recommend using the Chromebook recovery utility, because you can use that on multiple devices. It works on anything with a Chrome browser, because it's just a Chrome app. Or yeah, obviously you can do what you like. Use Etcher, Rufus, or any of the other kind of Linux USB burners. So mass deployment, USB sticks are great, and we recommend if you're doing deployments under 100 devices, definitely go the USB route. It's just so much easier to get up and running. You can do it in an afternoon and be on your way. And then once they're up and running and managed, you don't have to do anything anymore. They'll just update in the background the same way a Chromebook does. So it's very minimal effort once you're up and running. If you are doing a larger scale deployment, there's options, many options. Windows Deployment Services works, Semantic Ghost, the Frog project, and many more like STCM, and many more. So reach out to us. That link there, guide.neverware.com/mass deployment, will provide some information on how you can get up and running with that. But if you've got a different mass deployment solution that you use internally, please let us know, and we may have documentation on how we can work with that to make it work. But yeah, I will say, if you're doing less than 100, use a USB. It's much quicker to get up and running. So just wanted to kind of round off on that with a kind of little case study, or very small case study. One of the schools that's been using Neverware in the UK very recently, a guy called Alex Silk over at a school over in East London. They had 2 banks of laptops that were just barely used. They were booked 4 times in an entire year just because the teachers hated the process of bringing the trolleys out and loading them up. It took 15-20 minutes to get the class set up, which was just a complete waste of time. Once they'd converted the devices over to CloudReady using CloudReady, devices were booked out 21 out of 25 periods in that week, which is amazing. I think that's a really good story to show that this isn't just about keeping stuff going. This is a real benefit to the school in terms of making the teachers' lives easier. They feel empowered again to actually bring devices out, put them in front of students, and do digital learning. And it inspires kids as well if they can actually feel comfortable and excited about using devices again rather than waiting for them to boot up for half the lesson. Cool.
So with that, we'll talk about next steps, and I'll chime in here because I've just gone through and created a USB myself and kind of gotten started. So I'll just walk you through the next steps that I took as someone who was new to Neverware. So Will's right. I think the easiest thing to do is just pop over to try.neverware.com. And this is a 45-day trial of Neverware?
21 days.
21 days trial, 3-week access. And this would give the full managed CloudReady experience. So once you do pop through that, you're bopped into my.neverware.com. And it's pretty quick and easy. Let me just log in with a sample account here. And when you are dropped in here, this dashboard, at least in my experience, was really easy to navigate. So as I was creating the USB key, I did it just following the prompts in this downloads area. The installation guide was really helpful. I was using Chrome OS, so I used the Chromebook recovery utility, and I think I was up and running in about 10 minutes with a brand new kind of CloudReady USB ready to go. So once you do actually manage to wipe a device, you can track all of your licenses here. So this is great for kind of fleet management of CloudReady devices. And then, of course, from the Google side of things, you can manage these CloudReady devices in the admin console in the same way that you would manage Chromebooks. So you won't necessarily do any user or device settings through the Neverware console. This is more just like an inventory, at least from what I've seen. And then you'd manage all of your Chrome user and device settings over on the Google side in the Google admin console. Will, anything else you wanted to add there?
No, just, yeah, this is a great tool to get up and running. And then once you've got the devices, say, for example, a device goes missing, you can use the same tool that you would with a Chromebook. You can disable the device, the big red triangle will come up saying, please return this to wherever you told it to be returned to. So yeah, all those tools will work the same way on the CloudReady device as it does on a Chromebook, and that can all be done through the Google admin console. And
if I burn through my 5 licenses as a trial, am I done, or how does that work?
You can get in contact with us, and okay. Yeah, we may be able to give you a couple more.
Got it. But as you can see, my license expires at the end of this week, so I got to get on it and go from there. So with that, I think there's some great questions in the doc. So we're just going to pop back over there and just look at the new one. So the first question is, how does this join in my existing Google admin, right? So as I just said, you would purchase. So let's say you flash an old Windows PC or an old MacBook, you would purchase the CloudReady license that would enable you to manage that, and then you purchase the Chrome management license as well. The interesting thing about the Chrome management license is they are transferable through CloudReady to CloudReady machines, because we recognize them as just another CloudReady device, similar to if you bought the same make and model of the new HP Chromebook, and then you had to send it back to the factory. You would, you'd be able to reuse that license with that same device if it's the same make and model. So, other thing to note from a Neverware perpetual licenses standpoint, you can reuse the perpetual licenses, if I understand that correctly.
You can reuse perpetual. You can also reuse the annual. So if you buy an annual device license, and in that year you decide that you want to swap it over to something else, or that device isn't working anymore, and you want to bring some extra devices out of the cupboard, you can swap the licenses over to that new device. They're completely transferable. So say you've got 50 devices in your school and you need 10 as a backup, you could buy 40 licenses and then swap them in if you want to over time.
Yeah. Great. So question from Andrew. Will, this one's for you. So will CloudReady have Android app support? Any color you can provide there?
I would say we would love to, but in terms of the open source project of Chromium, that doesn't include the Android container that's in Chrome OS. So there's not too much we can do right now on that, but yeah, we're always looking into it and hopeful that we may be able to do something there in the future. That's the answer I give to the many questions we get about Android apps.
Yeah. Great question from Graham. He's in a cloudy school and he's a governor at a school that is not yet cloudy. So just for the percentage of schools that are Google schools, it's always kind of hard to quantify what exactly is a Google school, right? We're not able to share like country level specific data, but globally there's over 85 million users of G Suite for Education, 30 million users of Classroom, I think over 25 million Chromebooks out there. So people are in good company if they're moving towards G Suite and Google Solution. If you go on to the Google for Education directory, you can also find reference schools near you. So you can search for, filter by reference schools within a 100-mile radius, and you'll be able to find some of our now over 35 or 40 reference schools across the UK, and see some similar type schools perhaps to you.
Yeah, I think Antonio's hit the nail on the head there. Antonio's been answering your questions, by the way, if anyone's wondering, who also works with us at Neverware in the UK. Yeah, I think, hit the nail on the head. It's a case of if the school is tempted by cloud but doesn't really want to jump in, CloudReady is a great way of just converting a few devices for a very, very small cost versus buying new kit, and seeing if it works for them.
Great. Any comment on this next one? Is CloudReady suitable for tablets?
Yeah, I think Antonio, again, good answer. Yeah, Windows-based tablets. They're becoming more and more supported over time. Chrome OS as an operating system. If you look at the evolution of Chrome OS, and CloudReady follows it very closely, Chrome OS has become much more suitable for tablets. Obviously, we have the new tablet coming out at some point.
Yes.
So yeah, it's becoming much more optimized as an operating system for tablet devices. So that's only going to improve over time. I don't believe we have any Windows-based tablets certified right now, but there are definitely ones that work. Like the Asus Transformer is one that works quite well with a few caveats right now.
This next one, online, offline, yes, same thing, same functionalities as Chromebooks. So if you're working in Google Drive and you have Drive offline enabled, it'll work on a CloudReady device in the same way that Drive offline would work on a Chromebook. Those are all user-specific settings, right? So if you can do that exactly the same on a Chrome browser on a Mac or a PC. Really, anything that you can run in Chrome, you can run on a Chromebook, you can run on a CloudReady device, online, offline included. Next question here. Graham and Andrew, you guys are winning points for the questions. These are great. Thank you. Licensing. So licensing is exactly the same on the Chrome side. So £19 perpetual license for the Chrome management license. And then we have the Neverware CloudReady licenses there, annual, perpetual, and site. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, that's the cost. Yeah.
Straightforward. Great question. How far behind is CloudReady as opposed to our latest version of Chrome that we're putting out?
Yeah, so we try and aim to be one version behind Chrome. Just that allows us to basically keep up with bug fixes. So say the original version of 65 of Chrome comes out. When we release the 65 version of Chrome of CloudReady, we'll have all the bug fixes that have gone into the stable version of Chrome OS. So it benefits us quite nicely. We can make sure we catch all the last minute bugs that might be in a Chrome device, but I love Chrome devices. I wouldn't say they have bugs very often.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to knock out these next two questions in one go. So Graham asks, iPad is interesting. Can CloudReady run on iPads? Not yet.
ask Apple about that.
Yeah, and it's a different ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So a little bit more difficult, but maybe I'll jump down to this one. Fizzbooks.
Yeah, Fizzbooks. So the issue there is, the 2 gigabytes of RAM. It's our kind of like minimum requirement. It would be great. What I would say with that is give it a go. We have many devices that use that Atom N270. And I've seen them used, and schools love using them compared to the Windows XP that they were using previously, which they really shouldn't be anymore. And then obviously some like yours is upgraded to Windows 7. I can't imagine that's running it too well. What I would say is give it a go, and it will probably work. But make sure with that one, that's a 32-bit CPU. So make sure you download the 32-bit operating system for that one.
So a couple of these, there's some good questions here about ARM processor, RT tablet. It looks like any comments there?
At the moment, we don't have any ARM devices certified, but if there's a big demand for something, we'll definitely look into it. So so far, we've had our hands busy with x86 Intel AMD devices, but if there's ARM has had a real resurgence outside of the phone market in the kind of like tablets and other more productivity focused devices. So yeah, maybe in the future there will be, but right now we're focused on x86.
Great. Yeah, and this next one is for the best experience, buy a CloudReady and a Chrome management license. Yes, because essentially, if you don't have the Chrome management license, it's just a consumer device, so you're not able to manage any of the settings on that device, right? You can't enforce user settings. You don't have access to the device settings like restricting sign into the domain, restricting guest mode, kiosk mode, things of that nature. So yeah, for best experience, coupling the CloudReady plus Chrome is the way to go. On that front, kiosk mode is supported. This is a massive use case in countries like Canada and New Zealand and the United States where testing requires the use of single app kiosk mode, exam mode. And so yes, you have a lot of school districts and school boards who are taking advantage of those features with kiosk and device management.
Yeah,
we got our Fizzbooks through, and then maybe I'll let you take this on outlining the difference between the home and licensed versions of CloudReady.
Yeah, so Home Edition is usually a little bit ahead of the Education Edition, unless you opt into the developer branch of the Education Edition. But I would say, well, do that on a few devices, but keep most of them on the stable branch is the safest thing to do. But the two key things, yeah, is you don't get any support, official like phone or email support with the Home Edition. There are some really good forums, and there's loads of people using the Home Edition, so there's a great community there that will help you. So there is support there. And then you can't manage it through the Google Admin Console on the Home Edition. They're the two key things, really.
Yeah, I think whoever Anonymous Hyena is pretty spot on. For more enterprise, like when you think of a school as an enterprise, where you have tens, if not hundreds, of devices that you're rolling out, you want to be able to manage those assets. You want to be able to know what's been going on those devices. So I think schools will manage those in the same way that they manage other devices within their organization, which is oftentimes with something like Chrome management. Yeah, cool.
Last question. I don't believe we do remove. I don't believe yet we've removed any, but I can double check on that. But I don't think we have removed any from support currently.
Good question.
Yeah, good question.
Well, just by judging from the questions and kind of the virtual dialogue, really appreciate the engagement. Will and I are quite excited about Neverware possibilities, and we will be sure to save this and post this on EduGeek when we're done. So thank you everyone for your support, and I'll pass over to Will. Yeah,
I'll just say in terms of next steps, feel free to reach out. Email and stuff is at the beginning of the presentation, I believe. Well, yeah, our Twitter is, but yeah, you can contact us through James or myself. And then also the other thing is through the Google partners. So the Google partners that work with Google on deploying Chrome and G Suite, you can talk to them as well. They're fully aware of Neverware and looking forward to implementing it. So feel free to reach out to them as well.
Great. Thanks everyone for your time, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Thanks.